Hello everybody and welcome back to the Buckeye Readers Chat. I'm Nicole.
And I'm Patty.
And today we're going to talk about series. So Patty, do you like to read series?
Sometimes yes, sometimes not.
What gets you into a series?
Good characters, good story, something that flows.
Awesome.
Do you read them?
I do, yes. I prefer series most of the time, and I'll throw in a standalone book when I want a break from reading an excessive story that's like 3 or 4 books long, sometimes more. What's the longest series you've ever read?
Yikes. Probably the Lee Child's Jack Reacher series. But if you don't mind, I've just kind of grabbed and read. I haven't read it in order, but it's been good.
Did that change the story for you think?
Not really. The Jack Reacher series is not necessarily consecutive. I've read the very first one that introduced him, and I had to read it a second time to actually enjoy it. But then the next one that I read was he was a teenager, and his dad was in the army. And then the next one, he was himself in the army, and then he was out of the army. And it just kind of bounced. Of course, I was bouncing, but I've looked at the sequence, and they're not necessarily. You can read them out of order. They're not dependent upon character development.
I struggle sometimes to read books out of order because I like to have beginning, middle, and end. But then sometimes you can't get away from that if you have a series that you have the main series and then the author decides to go back and write a prelude or the prologue to it, and then you have to go back and read that, and then they're like, okay, now 20 years in the future, and now you have to go back and read that. So I struggle sometimes with series like that where the timeline is all over the place, and that's how it's written.
Right.
So.
When my kids were small, I read the Boxcar Children, and we went through them consecutively, and it was fun because we knew the characters, and we enjoyed the mysteries and how they solved them, and that was fun. And when I got to be an adult and reading series, sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. Like you said, sometimes I don't like too much information about other characters. I want to focus on the people I'm reading about. That's focused. But one series I was reading, they kept talking about this couple and then about this couple. Of course, it was a romance, but and then they kind of kept straying away from the main people, and I'm like, okay, I want to focus. I want to enjoy these people's story, not all their families that we've already read about so much.
Gotcha. Do you remember what that series was called?
I don't. I remember the author was Carla Neggers, but I don't remember which series it was.
Well, when you read as many books as Patty does, you can't remember all of them. So do you have any series recommendations?
Of course, maybe it's just for older folks because it centers on older folks. This is the Camel Club by Baldacci and the Baldacci. And it's a great series. Starts off with this Oliver Stone that camps out as a homeless guy by Washington, D.C., by the president's area, and they're always after him. And then he develops some friendships, and they keep going through the stories. So it's been really good, and I would definitely recommend it. What about you? What's your favorite series?
That's tough. Read a lot. I really liked, and this was a young adult series that I picked up, Marissa Meyer's The Lunar Chronicles.
I've heard of her. She's very good.
Yes, and each book is a retelling of a famous fairy tale. So the first one is a retelling of Cinderella. The next one is a retelling of Little Red Riding Hood. But what's cool about this series is that it's a flowing storyline. So you still get that inclusion of the fairy tale, but the characters eventually meet each other in each book, and they have this grand storyline together. And of course, with her books, she wrote a spin-off series, so you get a background on the villain. She wrote another book that came out at the end of the series that was short stories that gave you a background on some of the other characters. And then she even wrote a graphic novel, duology, that continued the storyline from another character's perspective. So that was one of my favorite series by Marissa Myers.
That's pretty cool. Some of the mystery writers have started this. They've got a mystery writers guild, and they'll occasionally write a story that has characters from two different authors, and they'll be little short stories. And so they introduce the characters from this author to this author's, and that's kind of fun because then you get, I mean, and they put like 13, 14 different authors in this book, and they've done it over the years. And so you get a chance to taste a little bit of some different authors, to get you reading some different authors. So that's been, it's not really a series, but it kind of is, and so they're kind of fun. And our library has several of those.
Oh, cool. I'm going to have to go look for those.
Yeah.
That sounds really good. Awesome. Well, thank you everybody so much for joining us again. All of the books that we talked about today are available at the library. We are doing no contact pickup through the library, so don't forget to place holds on your books. Are there series that you enjoy? Are you one of those sticklers that can't read something out of order? Do you prefer to read stuff out of order? Anyways, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks.